Welcome, and thank you for joining us on this unforgettable journey. We're absolutely thrilled to have you here. Today we're diving deep into one of the most chilling and mysterious stories ever told. The shocking truths behind life in Sodom, a city so twisted, even angels were targeted. These 15 disturbing facts will shake everything you thought you knew about the Bible. So sit tight, open your mind, and prepare for a story soaked in sin, seduction, and divine wrath. And don't forget, subscribe to the channel for more powerful, thought-provoking, and inspiring content just like this. Kingdom Inspirations presents to you 15 shocking facts about Sodom you were never told. Women who tried to seduce angels. In this video, we'll explore one of the Bible's most terrifying and mysterious stories, the sinful city of Sodom, where corruption ran so deep that even angels were seduced. Prepare to uncover 15 shocking facts that reveal the dark heart of a society consumed by lust, pride, and rebellion against God. You'll learn about 1. The seductive power women used as weapons. 2. The divine mission of the visiting angels. 3. The terrifying night of attempted assault. 4. Lot's controversial offer. 5. The firestorm of divine judgment. 6. The tragic fate of Lot's wife. And 7. What this ancient story means for us today. Stay with us. This story will leave you speechless. What happens when a city becomes so corrupt that even angels are in danger? Sodom was a place where lust overshadowed law, and pleasure replaced purpose. The central conflict lies in a terrifying battle between divine holiness and human depravity. Can righteousness survive in a world obsessed with sin? Why did God send angels, and what horror awaited them? These haunting questions drive a story of seduction, sacrifice, and ultimate judgment that still echoes through time. In a city draped in gold but drenched in sin, beauty became a weapon and desire a throne. Strangers with light in their eyes walked among shadows, unaware of the storm that lust would stir. A father's plea pierced the darkness, as innocence stood on the edge of corruption. Fire fell where hearts turned to stone, and a backward glance sealed a soul's fate. Yet from the ashes, echoes rise, whispers warning us of a path once taken, never forgotten. Imagine a city so consumed by its own darkness that it dared to defy heaven itself. In Sodom, beauty was twisted into seduction, and pleasure was worshipped like a god. Women lured, men demanded, and innocence was mocked. Then, 2 heavenly visitors walked its streets, unaware that sin itself would come knocking. What followed was a night of chaos, a father's cry, angels unleashing judgment, and fire raining from the sky. This isn't just a story of the past. It's a haunting mirror to our world. Brace yourself. What you're about to witness will stir your soul and shake your spirit. Now take a deep breath, because we're about to journey into the heart of a story so dark, so raw, it echoes through eternity. This is more than history. It's a divine warning wrapped in mystery and fire. As we peel back the layers of Sodom's fall, each moment will grip your soul and challenge what you thought you knew. So sit tight, open your heart, and let's dive deep into the shocking truth behind the city that defied heaven. Long before fire ever kissed its rooftops, Sodom gleamed under the desert sun like a jewel. Nestled near the fertile plains of the Jordan Valley, it stood as a beacon of prosperity, power, and perversion. It was a city that had everything: wealth without restraint, beauty without humility, and power without conscience. But beneath its golden facades and bustling marketplaces, a slow, deadly rot was spreading. A spiritual decay that silenced conscience and fed on human desire. Sodom's name alone has become a symbol for sin. But why? What truly made it so infamous in the eyes of God? It wasn't just the actions, it was the attitude. Pride throbbed in the hearts of its people. The poor were ignored, strangers were mocked, and indulgence was no longer hidden in secret, it was celebrated in the streets. The people worshipped pleasure and placed lust upon their altars. What was once sacred became a joke. Boundaries blurred. Men became predators. Women became enchantresses. And children grew up not knowing right from wrong, only hunger for more. It was not a place where sin crept in. It was a place where sin ruled, crowned like a king. Sodom was a breeding ground for unspeakable acts because its people stopped listening to truth, to conscience, and to God. They chose rebellion wrapped in luxury. They fed their flesh and silenced their souls. In the eyes of the world, Sodom was majestic. But in the eyes of heaven it was cursed, a city hurtling toward divine judgment. unaware that its final breath was drawing near. And so, in this glittering city of desire, a storm was silently forming. One that would soon reveal the fury of God and the fragility of unchecked freedom. In Sodom, beauty wasn't a gift, it was a weapon. A powerful, sharpened tool wielded with precision by women trained not just to entice, but to enslave the hearts, minds, and bodies of men. This was no ordinary femininity. It was hyper-feminized allure twisted by culture, darkness, and rebellion. Here, beauty no longer reflected God's grace. It was hijacked to glorify lust. From a young age, girls in Sodom were taught the art of manipulation. Charm was their shield, seduction their sword. Their value was not in virtue, but in conquest. They didn't just dress to impress, they dressed to dominate. With painted eyes and whispers like honey, they lured kings, strangers, and even sacred messengers into webs woven of desire. Women were not victims in this world. They were the silent queens of corruption. Behind many of Sodom's darkest decisions stood a woman trained in the art of control. Her power didn't lie in wisdom or leadership, but in the power to make men forget who they were. Even religion was not spared. In the high places of Sodom, rituals of seduction were performed in the name of false gods. Sacred acts were mimicked and defiled. Women danced before altars, not for reverence, but for arousal. Their bodies were used in spiritual warfare, not to fight darkness, but to summon it. This was beauty, turned dangerous. A force so potent, even divine messengers sent from heaven would be caught in the crossfire. It wasn't just about lust, it was about rebellion. A rebellion that wore perfume and silk and walked with a smile of a goddess, but carried the poison of destruction in her touch. And what happened when these women set their eyes on angels was unthinkable. They didn't come with fire or thunder. They came as men, quiet, cloaked in humanity, but radiant with the essence of heaven. 2 angels stepped into the gates of Sodom, their mission divine, their presence unsuspecting. Their arrival was not to destroy, not yet, but to investigate, to witness, to see if the cries reaching heaven were as horrifying as they seemed. But the moment their feet touched Sodom's soil, the atmosphere trembled. The people saw them, not as holy messengers, not as beings of divine origin, but as prey. Word spread like wildfire. 2 striking strangers had entered the city, unfamiliar and unguarded. And as day turned to dusk, desire grew into something feral. The men of Sodom, young and old, rich and poor, crowded the house of Lot, where the angels had sought refuge. Their voices thundered through the night. Bring them out to us, that we may know them. It wasn't curiosity. It was carnality. A demand born not of welcome, but of wicked hunger. There, in that moment, the true spiritual war began, not with swords, but with will. Heaven's holiness stood face to face with Sodom's unrelenting lust. The air thickened with tension as light clashed with darkness. The angels, beings of unimaginable purity, now found themselves surrounded by the very depths of human depravity. Their mission had turned urgent. Judgment was no longer a question, it was inevitable. This was not just a visitation. It was the moment when heaven came down and found hell waiting. The streets of Sodom were no longer silent. The line between divine patience and wrath had been crossed. And what came next would forever scar the pages of human history. Nightfall in Sodom was no ordinary silence. It was a silence laced with danger, the kind that comes just before chaos explodes. That night, beneath the cover of darkness, the city's deepest evil came to life. The 2 heavenly visitors, cloaked in mortal form, were hidden inside Lot's home. But outside, the streets trembled with footsteps. A mob was forming. It wasn't just a few reckless men. It was all the men, young and old, the elite and the outcasts. Unified not by justice, but by desire. Their voices rose in one horrifying chorus. Bring them out to us, that we may know them. They weren't asking for conversation. They were demanding domination, to violate what was holy, to tear down what was divine. This was not mere sin. It was a declaration of war against heaven. But what many forget is this: the women of Sodom weren't idle bystanders. In the shadows, some whispered and urged the mob forward, stirring passion and giving nods of approval. Others prepared incense and oils, turning the night into a seductive ritual, as though assaulting angels could somehow be justified as worship or pleasure. These weren't acts of ignorance, they were deliberate. The city's men sought to defile purity, while the women fueled the flames of corruption, believing power could be seized through pleasure. It was humanity against holiness, flesh against spirit. Sodom, in full rebellion, dared to lay hands on heaven itself. And in that cursed moment, when violence and seduction stood united against the divine, the angels revealed who they truly were. Blinding light burst forth, and judgment, once delayed, began to stir. That night wasn't just an attempted assault, it was mankind's defiance wrapped in lust and pride. A moment the heavens would never forget. In the thick of the madness, as fists pounded on his door and voices screamed with unholy hunger, Lot stood trembling, torn between human instinct and heavenly obligation. He was no prophet, just a man trying to protect what he barely understood, messengers of God disguised as strangers. And in his desperation, he made a decision that history has struggled to understand. He opened the door. His voice cracked. His heart broke. And he said the unthinkable, "Take my daughters instead, they've never known a man." The crowd roared. And the world, even now, shudders at his words. But to understand Lot's shocking offer, we must enter the ancient world. In Middle Eastern tradition, hospitality was sacred. A man's honor was bound to protecting those under his roof, even unto death. Lot's offer wasn't approval of evil, it was a tragic attempt to hold on to honor in a city that had forgotten the meaning of the word. Still, his offer exposed something deeper, just how corrupted Sodom had become. When protecting the innocent demands such sacrifice, the darkness has gone too far. And yet, before the mob could react, the angels moved. With power no eye could fathom, they pulled Lot inside and struck the mob with blinding light. Eyes melted into confusion. Rage turned to fear. Chaos erupted. And for the first time, heaven's fury cracked through the skies. This was the turning point. The last chance. The final offer of peace was refused, and judgment was no longer delayed. In that single moment, a man's desperate plea, a father's broken offer, and a divine intervention, the curtain was torn, and the countdown to destruction began. Sodom had chosen its path, and heaven had witnessed enough. Morning in Sodom should have brought light, warmth, and renewal. But on this day, it brought fire. The angels, now unveiled in radiant authority, gave their final warning: flee and do not look back. Lot, his wife, and their daughters ran, hearts pounding, lungs burning, tears streaming, as the earth beneath Sodom began to groan. Then, the skies split. From above came not rain, but righteous fire. Sulfur poured like rivers of wrath. The heavens answered the cries of the oppressed with a judgment no soul could escape. Buildings melted. Streets turned to ash. Screams pierced the dawn as flames consumed every corner of corruption. The once proud city, gilded in wealth and wickedness, was reduced to smoke and silence. Lot's family didn't run. They fled with terror in their bones. But not all would escape. Behind him, Lot's wife slowed. The memories of comfort, vanity, and belonging called to her. She turned. Just one glance. And in that single act of disobedience, she was lost. Her body stiffened. Her soul, caught between two worlds. And she became a pillar of salt, a symbol of sorrow, frozen in time, for all to remember. What Lot and his daughters witnessed was not just destruction. It was transformation. From a cursed city to a graveyard of fire. From rebellion to reckoning. That morning didn't just change geography, it changed history. It was a divine warning carved into the earth, saying, this is what happens when grace is rejected, when lust replaces love, when pride drowns out purity. The fire didn't just fall on Sodom. It scorched the conscience of humanity. And as smoke rose to the heavens, the world would never forget the price of sin, and the mercy that fled just before the flames. Though Sodom was reduced to ash, its spirit still walks among us. Not in ruins or smoke, but in the quiet choices we make, the culture we embrace, and the values we normalize. Look around, and you may see it. The obsession with pleasure over principle. The glorification of seduction over sanctity. The elevation of self above all that is sacred. Sodom is no longer a city. It's a mindset, and it thrives in screens, songs, systems, and hearts. We live in an age where the very sins that doomed Sodom are celebrated as freedom. Where boundaries are blurred and reverence is ridiculed. Where lust wears the mask of empowerment, and rebellion parades as progress. But have we truly learned from Sodom's fall? This story isn't just about ancient ruins or divine wrath. It's a mirror, forcing us to examine our own souls. Are we protecting purity, or mocking it? Are we drawing near to the sacred, or seducing it into silence? And perhaps the most chilling lesson lies in this, that angels, pure, radiant beings from the throne of heaven, were desired not for who they were, but for what they could be used for. It reveals humanity's terrifying ability to corrupt even the holy, to twist the divine for selfish ends. But hope remains. Sodom may warn us, but it doesn't have to define us. We can choose differently. We can remember Lot's plea, his wife's backward glance, and the fire that followed, not as a threat, but as a wake-up call. As the ashes of Sodom fade into silence, we're left with a haunting truth, that light rejected becomes fire remembered. In the end, the story of Sodom is a cry to guard the sacred within us, before the fire falls again. Reflective questions. What lessons do you think the fall of Sodom still holds for our modern society today? Or why do you think the story of Sodom continues to evoke such strong emotions and debate across generations? In your view, what are some signs that a culture or community is heading down a similar path as Sodom? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for walking this journey with us through one of history's most chilling yet powerful stories. We believe that this video has stirred something within you, so don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more captivating revelations that will challenge, inspire, and awaken you. Together, let's keep uncovering the hidden truths that still echo through time. Stay curious, stay alert, and above all, never forget what happens when holiness is ignored. We will meet in the next video. Bye for now.